Real Stars, make sure you follow our socials in the description and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Welcome back to the Offbeat Podcast, back again after a little delay in between the episodes. Life's been busy, summer's been busy. I've been following the greatest football team in the world as well for the last few months, so that's also got in the way. I am joined today by my very good friend, also a huge City fan. We have got Hugh Murray, Mr. HMTV's in the building. How are we, Hugh?
I'm great. We've been saying I need to get on this pod since we first met. What was that? That was Madrid away last season, wasn't it? The Champions League. So, yeah, man, it's great. It's great to be here. It's great to finally make it on. Great to see you're back on the pod as well. So, yeah, buzzing, man.
Definitely. I mean, we both been talking before this about just how much work sort of goes into a YouTube channel, because it is mental. Like, all the hours and hours you put in behind the scenes, it really does take a lot of time, doesn't it?
Yeah, I don't think the non-content creators maybe appreciate how much work goes into it, and trust me, I will never complain about it. I love doing it. I absolutely love the process. I love meeting people. I love the opportunities I've got from it, but I do promise you there's a slight bit more work to it and a bit more, logistics organizing than just flicking on a camera. But no, it's a blessing. It's a blessing, but it can be challenging, especially if you're working a job during the day or you have other commitments and that. But no, you're right, man, 100%.
Yeah, it's very rare to sort of do it a full-time job nowadays. People, we do it for the game, but we're talking about sort of like meeting people. Like, without the internet and sort of football culture, we would have never met. We would have never gone to Madrid away together. So, who would have thought a man from Ireland and just a local manny lad just decide to become friends and do the institution of football in Real Madrid, who seems to be your sort of second love in it. You do love a bit of Real Madrid.
Nah, people don't get it. People don't get it when I explain it to them. Like, I've been to the majority of the iconic stadiums in Europe, and I've been fortunate to do so. But that was our trip to the Bernabeu was my first ever trip to Madrid, and there was just this aura. People, I'm sorry, I know not everybody wants to praise Real Madrid. I know not everybody's gonna like that, but when we got off at that Santiago Bernabeu station and I saw the big stadium, and I know a lot of people just call it an air fryer and it doesn't look great, but I felt aura. And I was like, okay, respect. You know what I mean? City's obviously my team and my love, but I don't know. I was blown away by the place. I thought this is a monumental football club. Like, they're just colossal, even when we were walking down from the station to, I think I was with you when we were walking from the station to
we were,
the stadium, and you just see all the different the different ethnicities, the different people from all parts of the world, all wearing the Real Madrid kit. No doubt City are getting there, we're getting there too, which is great. We've got a growing fan base all the time, but they've had that for so long that it's just the way they are. I don't know, I just like it. I thought it was cool, and obviously they've got a sick squad and that, but yeah.
It was kind of like a festival sort of crowd, I thought, because you're walking down and the different ethnicities. It was meant like, I remember when we were walking through the tram stop trying to get the boarding tram to go to the stadium, and there was a group of like 10 Americans just there, just trying to find their way with us, and I was like, this is mental. This is a football game, and you've got people travelling thousands of miles to come and watch little old Man City.
I know. That's the effect we have nowadays, bro. Do you know what I'm saying? It's We're that club. We're that club that people want to turn out and see. But yeah, the Madrid one's crazy, man. The Madrid one's crazy. The pull they have in America, South America, everywhere, bro. They're global, man. They've done it.
They've done a madness, absolute madness. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about sort of like, so most people know you from your online content creation because you were with sort of City Extra doing their online content before, and then you have moved on to doing your HMTV now with Joe. So how's it been sort of adapting to life, becoming sort of like a two-man band? Because obviously with City Extra, you've got loads of people behind you, or you've got a team there who can work with you. But with you and Joe sort of going on your own, how's that sort of shifted your mindset or shifted your sort of content creation, do you think?
It's funny because it wasn't really a shift. It was more like going back to our roots, because I don't know if you know, most people won't know because they found me through City Extra, but me and Joe started YouTube together towards the back end of lockdown. We had a channel called the 1894 with another friend of ours, Dara from Dublin as well, another City fan, and we just shoot the shit, man. We used to just stream, make videos to small audiences, 10, 20 views at a time, and it was growing really slowly, but we weren't too bothered. We were just having fun. It was just a hobby more than anything. But I got to become close friends with Lewis and Jordan, who would have been the two obviously main guys at City Extra on their YouTube side of things. And, you know, whenever I go to games, I meet up with them for a drink and that. And I guess just one thing led to another, and it felt like natural progression that I would go to City Extra. Lewis offered me to move over to City Extra, you know, big channel at the time. I think when I joined, they would have had like 60,000 subscribers, which was in the city space, which was a lot smaller at the time. Huge, you know, huge. I think it might have only been Esteemed Company, might have been the only one with a bigger channel at the time. So for me, I was like, yeah, and it was hard. It was hard to say to Joe, like, I'm gonna go to City Extra. I don't know what to do with this channel now. And then Lewis kind of gave me the option to rebrand the 1894, which was called at the time. The 1894, the name, I did not pay attention to the fact that there was actually a fan group also called the 1894.
The main fan group, can I say, the South Stand where I sit as well, a main fan group of City.
Yeah. So I was allowed to rebrand the 1894 channel, which for Joe was a bit like, I don't know. He wasn't sure if he wanted to work under a brand that was me, you know what I mean? Kind of a personal channel for me, but he agreed to it. Joe's fantastic. I genuinely, through any success or growth I've had on YouTube, I owe a huge amount of it to Joe, a genuine huge amount of it, because like I said, we started at the same time and none of us knew anything. None of us knew how to edit. None of us knew anything about audio. None of us knew anything about graphics, anything. He learned it all on the job, and he learned it so quickly. His brain operates in a way different to anybody I've ever seen before. He just picked up graphics, picked up editing video, picked up how to run a stream, picked up YouTube Studio, picked up StreamYard, OBS, everything. And obviously it wasn't perfect at the beginning, but he improved at such a rapid pace that allowed me to just focus on hosting or video ideas or stream ideas or networking or collabs and that kind of thing. So that's what made it easier for me to come back from City Extra to went into HMTV, having Joe. The hardest part was just getting him back on board. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it goes.
Was just telling him, look, I've left City Extra. I want to go full time back on HMTV. Are you in? And he was like, oh, you know, because he was a bit pissed off at me for the first time for leaving. And he was like, oh, what if you do it again? I was like, I promise you, I won't leave again. I'm here. And it's been that way since April. So I was only really with City Extra from, maybe a year. But City Extra was fantastic because that was what kind of, like I said, my original channel, the 1894, it was a very small audience. I think I might have only had less than 1,000 subs at the time. And then City Extra, just because they were so big during lockdown, like you remember yourself during lockdown football, none of us were going to games. So how would you interact with fans? You know what I mean? There was no community. You could go to the pub or the South Stand or whatever. So for a lot of people like myself, Lewis and Jordan became the match day kind of hub. You know, the chat would be all the City fans would be chatting to. And that was fantastic. You know, that was fantastic. So with that audience City Extra already had built, it gave me a platform and a great opportunity that I still thank them both whenever I chat to them. I chat to Lewis a lot still. Jordan, I think he's taking a break from YouTube at the minute, but they were both fantastic in their own ways. Jordan, like I spoke about graphics and design and that kind of thing with Joe. Jordan's elite level at that stuff. Like, bro, I've seen him working on his computer in his studio. The guy's a freak. I don't know how he's not working for City or Sky Sports or something like that. But yeah, man, it's been the whole YouTube thing is crazy, man. I've enjoyed it. There's been obviously plenty more things, but City Extra to HMTV, it was easy enough because of Joe. I knew I had to work though, you know what I mean? You got to be consistent.
Of course, yeah. He was. So do you feel like he was like your comfort blanket, where you're like, "Come on, Joe, here we go. Let's just get over each other." Because it's good that you play to each other's strengths. Obviously, your strengths is there with the hosting, sort of playing that, and then Joe behind the scenes. Because at the end of the day, name me a podcast with over 10,000 followers that don't have a producer. There isn't one at all. Like, producers are the most important part of any podcast nowadays, especially with online content creation, because to do it on your own is almost impossible to a high level. So I love that. How do you feel like City's sort of fan media is growing? Because obviously we are a very small fish in a big pond. Bearing in mind, if you look at Liverpool's numbers, you've got Anfield Wrapped, you've got Redmen TV, you've got United with the Red Devils, like United Stand, you've got huge productions. And then City, I would say probably City Extra, probably the biggest esteemed company you've got. You've got obviously LB, like Lewis, as we spoke. You've got a few up and coming sort of creators, obviously part of the City Ramble podcast. Shout out to City Ramble boys as well. Like, how do you feel like City are evolving and sort of creating their own fan culture within fan media?
It's totally exploded since I started. I think I was one of like, I'm probably gonna discredit someone that I wasn't aware of at the time, but I was only aware of like 4 channels maybe when I started.
I think I agree with you as well. I could name 4 or 5 back, say,
like,
3 years ago.
Like I was making content before like Big Steve became Big Steve, and
Yeah,
I think all I was aware of was really Mancunian Way, Martin and his crew, great guys. I was aware of City Extra, Steam Company. That might be it. I do apologize if I'm forgetting anybody who's an OG and been around a while, but it's blown up, man. You're getting more and more city channels popping up every day, and I like it. I think it's great, and I try to help out as many of the newer ones as possible. They'll always message me and say, "Will you come on and help me out?" And I have done. I like doing that because even though the community was very small when I first started off, it was a great community. You know, there's a lot of really good people who were willing to help you out. Like Lewis and Jordan were both on my channel early doors. Big Steve was on my channel early doors when he kind of burst, but he was so popular from the off that getting him on even early doors was always going to be a great coup. But now you've got channels popping up left, right, and center. But the thing for me is, I like the way it is in the sense that the way we as content creators, Man City fans, we produce our content. I'm not personally a fan of like the highly produced studio lights, camera, action stuff. I've done it. You know what I mean? I've been on some of the bigger Arsenal channels and United channels, and my time with the Big Six, I got to network a lot and meet lots of the really big creators who great careers out of it. But for me, just personally, I enjoy making the more raw fan content. You know, it's at home. It's a bit more gritty. You know what I mean? It's not as maybe easy on the eye, but it feels more authentic.
It's real. It's really, it gets you to know the people who are sort of, gets you to know the creators, really. I know for me, like, I love seeing a creator grow from strength to strength, especially if they're starting off in their room and then moving out to seeing them at a game, going over and chatting to them. You feel like you're a bit more approachable as well, which I quite like.
Yeah, I mean, look, the thing is with these big, highly produced content pieces and channels that do so, I find those who work for those, like your AFTVs and United Stands, the best people who work on those platforms also have their own personal channels. So, like, for example, Turkish, who the host of the Big Six show, obviously one of the main lads on AFTV, he's a big hit over there. What I like about him is he still also does his own this style of content, sitting at home. He's got his Arsenal jerseys hanging up behind him, and he does his own, raw stuff. It's personal. It's not like we're trying to be Sky Sports. We're trying to recreate what's already out there on the television. I feel fan content is at its best when it's just 1-2 people talking to the camera, decent mic quality. It doesn't have to be 4K or 8K. It's just I want to hear what this fan has to say. And like I said, that's what I think the City fans at the minute online are doing a great job at. You've got there's loads of new ones. You've got City Luke TV. He's just come onto the scene. He's absolutely
good lad. City Luke. Luke's a nice lad as well. I spoke to him a few times. He's a really good guy.
There's a few of them just like Luke who've come on and they're making their way, and it's great to see. I don't think I would like it if we got a channel who were like, yeah, we're gonna get a big fuck off studio and 10 producers and assistants flying around with teas and coffees. No, bro, we're football fans. Yeah, let's chat about the football. Turn on the camera, give me a mic, and I'll rant or rave.
No, it makes sense, and it's like, look at Real Madrid away, for example. We had me and Amos from the City Ramble. We had you from HMTV. We met up with Ollie Lowe and Geordie as well from City Extra. We met up with Luke from MCFC Lads as well. You had obviously Louis there, who's done bits with City Ramble as well. There's so many sort of online content creators, and because you know of each other in the space, you can kind of just feel like you're mates already. Because you have the same interest.
That's the best part about the City space for me. Above everything I've already said that I like, the best part of it is there's no divisions. You know what I mean? There's no rifts. There's no nobody has beef with the other City channel, or because, like I said, I've got to know a lot of the big creators in the space just through my endeavors with other channels and that kind of thing. And tell you, like, the United content scene, the Arsenal content scene, you hear rivalries between channels and that kind of thing. Whereas at City, we're more like, look, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. Let's help each other out. Like off camera, most of us have gone for drinks together or have been on away trips together. It's just, it feels like a proper community rather than competitors. You know, I never look at another one of the City channels and go, oh, he's doing better views than me, or he's got more subs than me, or this guy's grown quicker, or this guy grew quicker than I did, but I was at his stage. You know, it's just I want all of us to do well, and that's the way it should be. I think that's the way a fan base should be.
Oh, of course, yeah. You want each other to thrive, especially if you're all in it for the same goal, really, and you all know how hard people are working at that side as well. Right. Speaking of how hard you sort of make your life following City, I just want to talk about sort of like the commitment you have towards a football club, because you don't live in Manchester. People might not know this, right? If they've only just sort of caught the odd video here and there, they might be like, "Oh, he must live in Manchester. He goes to the game, seeing ticket, all this sort of stuff." But you don't. You live in Dublin, don't you?
I live in Dublin, believe it or not. Yeah. I felt for a long time that I live in Manchester part time, and I've always had a lot of places to stay. Friends would let me stay in their houses, or I'd get hotels. But no, yeah, I've always travelled from Dublin I've had my season ticket now for 8 or 9 years.
Jesus. Do you know what I like to most about you is when we talk about organising this, the first thing you said to me was, "Shall we film it in person?" And I went, you're in a different country to me, and you just offered to come and literally film in person with me. And I was like, "No, we'll do it online. I don't want you to have to come and get a flight over." And you're like, "But I'm going to be here anyway."
No, we'll do a part two. We'll do a part two in
100%.
person for sure, 100%. But no, yeah, I've always travelled over. I've always travelled over, and look, the more you do it, you kind of figure out tips and tricks and certain flight times that are more, optimal. Because I remember when I first started off, I'd be getting flights at like 6 o'clock in the morning into Manchester, and then the pubs don't open till 8, so you'd sit in Weatherspoons, Piccadilly, eat a real sorry looking breakfast till the beers open, and then you fall asleep on the desk. Maybe I've been to games like Southampton and Burnley where I'm literally in my seat in my first season ticket in the Colin Bell, like dozing off at half time, and some poor old lady beside me used to always nudge me and go, second half starting.
Great man accent as well.
Yeah, so nowadays I just I kind of know like what times I want to fly over and if I'm going to stay the night. Like, because Dublin and Manchester are so close, people don't realize that I can get to Manchester quicker than I can get to the other side of Dublin, because the flight's only 25 minutes.
Yeah, but because that's where we came. So we obviously came to you to then fly out to Madrid.
Oh, you did? Yeah,
we were literally, we were up and down, like up and down, and I was like, Jesus Christ, like. It's literally like me driving. Like, if I drove to Liverpool, for example, it takes me an hour to drive to Liverpool.
Oh, it's crazy.
Like,
it's crazy. It's great though. It's great for European aways, because the airlines always make the flights from Manchester more expensive, but from Dublin, obviously, that's why you did it, is cheaper. So it has its perks. It has its perks.
Are you doing any European aways, or have any really spoke to you so far, or are you going to sort of maybe wait till the knockouts again?
I started a new job this week, a 9 to 5, unfortunately, but I love it. I do love it. I like it so far. So I'm in training now for the next 8 weeks, so I can't really.
You can't. Yeah,
sorry, I'm dipping off to Lisbon. I'm looking at Turin maybe in December. I think I'd like to go to Juventus, but I would have loved to have gone to Bratislava if I was able to get the time off work. But just I don't know. I think a lot of City fans who go a lot of these European aways have always kind of felt like, yeah, the Champions League is great, but a little year in the Europa League would be fun, just to go somewhere different. You know what I mean? Some of these back arse of Europe trips to try something different. And that's what Bratislava is. It's their debut season in the Champions League. They played their first game in the competition last night at the time of recording. So I'd have gone to that. €1 pints in Bratislava. Does that not appeal to you?
Oh, I mean, it'd be the dream. And also seeing big Vladimir Weiss playing on the right wing again. I mean, I've not seen him play since about, I think it's his debut in like 07, 08, and he's still playing football now at top level.
His dad's his manager.
I know, I saw that.
Also Vladimir.
Big up to Vladimir Weiss. I mean, I remember watching him make his debut, and I was like, "Oh, this guy's going to be special." And then I think we shipped him off to Rangers and never saw him again. And I was like, "Okay, fair enough." But the City have just grown exponentially. So, how does it become that a lad from Dublin supports Man City? So, where did that love come from for you?
So, I started supporting City the minute Rodri scored that goal in Istanbul, I knew. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. People just assume because I'm from Ireland, I'm like a plastic glory hunter, whatever these terms are. And look, if anybody does just choose to support City, cool, right on, go for it, man. Why not? Because most of these people, particularly where I'm from in Dublin, in Ireland, are like, oh, I support United, I support Liverpool, and blah blah blah. Well, why do you support them? Oh, I just always did. Yeah, because when you were 7, 8 years old, United was winning the Champions League in Moscow. You know what I'm saying?
They were winners, yeah.
The kids nowadays, City are that team. You know what I mean? That's the team that lifting the shiny trophies and have all the best players. But no, for me, it was a family thing. You know, my grandparents, they when they were like 17, I want to say 17, they moved to Sale, just outside Manchester.
Nice.
And they lived there for years and years and years and years. They only moved back when I was 4 or 5, I want to say. My granddad went over, no interest in football, working on the sites, and they got 1 day off a week. And that 1 day off a week, the lads all went to Main Road or Old Trafford, depending on who you support. So just to be social, he went to Main Road with the lads, and just repetition, he got into it. And yeah, kind of just passed on to me. Like my dad's a Celtic fan, so I've got a lot of love for Celtic. But I spent a lot of time with my granddad when I was younger, so it kind of just worked out that way, you know. But yeah, football in Ireland, man, growing up was difficult. It was difficult, you know what I mean? A lot of United fans, a lot of Liverpool fans. But no, it's just been the way. I don't really know much more, man, than Manchester City at this point.
Yeah, I was always the uncool kid in my year when I was in primary school. I think so. When I was in primary school, it was sort of like 04 onwards from there, and I was the only Man City fan in my year in primary school. And I was there watching United win trophy after trophy. Meanwhile, I'm there paying ridiculous. My dad's paying ridiculous amount of money to take me to watch bloody, I don't know, like Nicholas and Elka play up, and John Macken coming off the bench. And for me, that's what I loved about City. I loved that it was me and my dad going watching the team that we love, seeing players where I loved them. They were absolutely my idols sort of growing up. And now we've gone full circle and we are now the best team in the world. It is absolutely mental to think about it.
I know, it's crazy. I was only looking at my jersey collection. That I'm one of these OCD people who buys every jersey every year, even if I don't like the shirt. I was going right back the years, and I was like looking at the 07, 08s and the first FA Cup win. Then I had the Aguero one. I remember my mum brought me to Blackpool for my 12th birthday, of all places. Nice. Blackpool, sick trip. And she bought me the green Joe Hart jersey from the 2012 win. Just great memories, man. And then you fast forward, like you said, to where we are now, and we have, in my opinion, the best squad in world football. It's still crazy to me, you know. It's still absolutely wild. So you just have to enjoy it, you know. You just have to enjoy it. And at the time of recording, obviously, last night we lost, or we drew, lost. You know what I mean? We're so not used to, we're so used to winning, but we drew it into Milan. And I see a lot of people online like, oh, you know, this is crap, that was crap. Oh, this player was awful, and how are we going to play Arsenal on Sunday if off the back of this? I'm like, you have no idea. You have no idea what like a draw at home to Inter Milan the first day of Champions League match they won is really no big deal. So you just have to enjoy the times, because I always say on my own channel, bro, football's cyclical. It won't always be as brilliant as it is now. I'm not saying City are going to go back down to, well, we'll see how 115 ends up, but I'm not saying City are going to fall off a cliff and just be crap, but we won't always be the 4 in a row team. We won't always be that treble team. We won't always be challenging for everything and everyone fears us. So you really just have to enjoy it. You know what I mean? Go on as many trips away as you can. Go to as many home games as you can. Go to as many City pubs as you can. Meet as many City fans as you can. And just enjoy the ride, man, because we are blessed. We are blessed, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. I say it to people all the time. Like the people who didn't go to Istanbul for me and were saying all these reasons and stuff, I was like, I had to be there. I had no days of annual leave. I flew out on the Friday night from Stansted, flew back on the Sunday morning. I had 2 hours sleep. I had to be at that game because I thought that was a piece of history in the making, and no one's ever going to stay away from you. So if you are a City fan or you are a football fan out there, if you do find yourself getting like an opportunity to go to a European away, go to even away in general. Even if you get like a Carabao Cup sort of West Brom away on a Wednesday night, it will be good. Always take and make sure you get all the opportunities out there. Speaking of the best squad in world football, I want to talk about the best squad in Irish football in a moment. And it's a link-ish. So you are a huge fan, and obviously all the Irish fans that I know, obviously through yourself, you do follow those Bohemians in sort of Dublin there for you. Now, how does Irish football sort of compare to a sort of like English league, do you think? Is it similar to sort of like the League One, League Two, where, because the stadiums, from an outsider looking in, obviously I've got no idea of the playing staff or how the standard is at all, but judging off the stadiums and what I can see of a club, I would say they would slot into sort of like a top half of a League One. Sort of like your Boltons, your Wigans, for example, your Blackpools when they came down, sort of them sort of clubs. Would you sort of agree that's like the standard of the facilities sort of in Ireland?
No, I disagree. The facilities are in the bin, man. Other than Tallaght Stadium, in my opinion, which is Shamrock Rovers, Bows arch rivals, they're the biggest club in the country by quite some distance. Other than their stadium, which is a capacity of 10,000, pretty well every ground is very, very below par. The League of Ireland's suffering, man. The League of Ireland's suffering because of lack of funding. You know, the FAI is a shambles in general. It's been run by cowboys for 2 odd decades now, and the League of Ireland's been neglected. I'm not the most educated to speak on the League of Ireland or the FAI. It's very much a hobby for me, you know. Going to Bows doesn't compare to me, say, going to City. Like my dad's bigger into Bows than me, you know. He's a member, I'm a member, but I only really got into it properly in the last 7-8 years. Before that, the Bows fans won't like this, but when I was like 13, I used to go to Rovers games with my best mate. You know what I mean? Like I like on a Friday night going to watch live football, and it's so close to my house. It just worked out perfect. But the standard of football is poor. If I'm being very honest, it's very poor. But it's not the standard of football that makes it what the fans call it the greatest league in the world. It's the community, the sense of ownership over your club. Like, for example, Bows is fan owned. It's 100% members owned. It's run majority on a day-to-day basis by volunteers, and you're standing in this, what you, the outsider, will consider a shithole of a ground, but everyone's standing there going, yeah, but it's our shithole. You know what I mean? Like it's ours, and there's brilliant bars inside the stadium that have music pumping. They're old fashioned. It would be like, in terms of size, a lot smaller, but a similar vibe to what Main Road would have been to the City fans in the 70s, 80s, 90s, you know, maybe 90s, because by then stadiums had become more advanced. But yeah, no, it's a great league, and I advise Irish people for sure to get out and support your local club. Like, I know I'll get brushed with the plastic Man City fan, but I do support local football. You know, I like to support. I like to support local football. I like to support lower levels. I like to, you know, put my money into it if I can, as best as I can, and support whatever way I can. I'm not a diehard fan. You know what I mean? I don't lose sleep or cry if Bows don't win on a Friday night like our friends, you know, Dylan and Andy would. But I do enjoy it. It's great fun, you know. If you're a football fan, even if you're a Premier League fan in England, and you have a non-league side who play near you on a Friday night, I would recommend going. Because how do you think football at the highest level can be that good? There has to be a certain filtering system, I suppose, of finances and that kind of thing, which Ireland doesn't have. But I still recommend it. I still recommend going to these grotty little grounds and having a piss up or a pie, whatever you like, and enjoying yourself.
It's all about character for me. Like, so for example, I went and watched Bury were in my local area. Obviously, Bury are absolutely substantial, huge club that so low down and will just grow and grow and grow through the league. So they were playing at Glossop North End the other week, and I was like, I've got nothing to do on Tuesday night. Let's go and pay a tenner and go watch some football. Definitely. And the character and community there was amazing. About 650 people in there, and I started, I'm a talker. I went on my own, but I'll make friends with anybody there. I made friends with this group of Bury fans, just chatting about the season, chatting about all sorts. And then as they were walking past, they said hello to about 40 people. Everybody knew each other. And it was just a case of, I was looking at it like, this is what football is, mate. Like, this is what you love about your team, where you can go to a place every Saturday, once every 2 weeks, and just say hello to about 80 people that you wouldn't know without them.
Well, that's what Bows is like. That's literally what Bows is like. I mean, we brought over our good friend Amos, City fan obviously, and another lad. I don't know, Owen McColgan.
Yeah, I know Owen. Yeah.
Great
That's
lad. We
something a
brought
few
the two of
times.
them over to a cup game between Bows and Rovers. Arch rivals, bitter, toxic. Like it's nasty between those two. Do you know what I'm saying? And Rovers, to give you context to the game, Rovers are like United under Ferguson, and Bows are like City in the 90s. Yeah, there's a massive gulf in finances, facility quality, player, everything. Rovers are stratospheres ahead of. Rovers are just off the back of winning 4 in a row. Yeah, 4 leagues in a row. And they're coming to Bows. They're coming to Dailyman Park, our home ground, to play us in the cup game. The cup's huge in Ireland, by the way. The cup has a lot more significance in Ireland than it does in England. We brought Amos and Owen over, and we're expecting to get pumped, as we do 9 times out of 10 by Rovers. Bows pull it off. They pull it off. They go and beat Rovers 1-0, I'm pretty sure, by a penalty. Amos and Owen fell in love with the place. They both caught the bug. Amos is coming over for the semi-final. You can come if you want to. I think Owen's coming too. It's just great crack, It's great fun to be a part of
The
it.
picture I loved was one of Dylan. I saw Dylan just like clambering over people, just with like fist in the air, and I was like, "Go on, lad."
Dylan's diehard. He's Mr. Bows. Do you remember we went to? You obviously you were with us. We went to the Mestalla in Valencia, and there was a statue of some man sitting in a seat. He was obviously a lifelong Valencia fan, great servant of the club or something. So they built him a statue where his season ticket seat was. Dylan turned to me that day and he goes, "Yeah, I'm going to get that for Bows. I'm definitely for that."
I love that. That is going to be mine. We're going to dedicate. Got to get my seat. Perfect. Excellent. So we're going to have a quick break. And then for part 2, we're going to try something a little bit different. There has been a huge sort of golfing and sort of like boom of the Barclaysmen. And no one's done a City's Barclaysmen 11. So I think me and you, Hugh, should get our teeth into it. What do you think?
Let's give it a go. I'll give it a go.
Excellent. See you in part 2. Welcome back to part 2 of the Oppie podcast. This is your first time here. Please do check out my past episodes. There's plenty of podcasts, plenty of music reviews. I do like to talk a lot about music as much as I do about sport. And also do check out Hugh over at HMTV and also the City Ramble, where I do talk about City week in, week out. But we were talking just then about sort of going through the Barclaysmen City 11. And I don't know about you, Hugo, but the nostalgia hit me over the international break of seeing players like Amir Zaki, players like Mido from Middlesbrough, players where we grew up watching and we were like, oh my God, what a time football was. Did it hit you as well?
Yeah, it did. I love the compilations, but just to be crystal clear, you're going to have to specify the criteria to be a Barclays man here to me.
Yeah, so to be a Barclays man, I think for me is to have them unforgettable memories of a player. We're not talking about the best players in the world. We're talking about players that, for me, produce special moments, special bits of nostalgia, where even though they may not have been the best player, for me, when I think of City playing in 08, City playing in 09, I think of this player wearing our shirt, playing football. That is what Barclaysman is for me. So the best example for me of a Barclaysman, I think, is probably Michu, where he was absolutely outstanding for one season where he just absolutely lit it up. And then he left without a trace, never to be spoken about again.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and the thing that I like about Barclaysman is, that's just my definition. Everyone's definition is going to be different. And I know that our 2 examples are going to be different. So I've got players here which have played for us in the noughties, in the early 10s. I've got players in here that have won Premier League titles with Man City. But I will class them as a Barclaysman myself. Okay. So shall I get us started, Hugh, with sort of my goalkeeper for Man City?
Yeah, you kick it off. I feel like we're going to have some similar picks. But
I've got a feeling we'll have some similar picks. I'm hoping we'll be. I've got a couple of different sort of plays with different sort of like notable mentions as well. But for me, when I think of Manchester City in the Barclays Premier League, I think of David James in there. The reason why I think of David James being our goalkeeper is because he played up front for us once. In that very special moment where we needed a score to get into the Europa League. I don't think it was called Europa League back then, but the secondary European competition. Yeah. We needed a striker. We had a striker on the bench in John Macken, who we paid a lot of money for. He scored goals, young, hungry, And Stuart Pearce decided, let's shove Davy James up front. So for me, if I'm picking a Barclays Man City 11, I'm having Davy James in there.
Yeah, I was thinking. I do like that shout. That's a really good shout, and that actually slipped my mind. I was like, what keepers did we have? You know, you had Nicky Weaver, Joe Hart, and
Of course, yeah.
all those kind of ones. David James totally slipped my mind. I was like, no, I'm going to go a bit rogue here. I'm going to say Shay Given, fellow Irish man.
Nice.
You know, FA Cup. He's part of that squad back then, but obviously wasn't the main man. But I'm going to go with him. Obviously, he had his time with like Newcastle and other clubs too, but. When I think of Irish players, which I do a lot back in that kind of noughties Premier League, Shay Given always is in my mind, so I'm going to go with Shay.
I love Shay Given. I think he was a really statement of intent when we signed him. He was fantastic. He really commanded his box well, and also he's got the same birthday as me. So me as a 10-year-old kid watching him, I was like, oh, what a legend! And I think Shay Given could arguably be in an all-time Barclays 11. He's ridiculous amount of appearances, ridiculous amount of clean sheets. Like, what a legend of a game.
No, on his day, he was class, man. On his day, he was class. And I when I think of him for City, I think of him in the green goalkeeper jersey, the brighter green goalkeeper jersey.
Yeah.
2010, I want to say. Yeah, just great memories, man. Great memories.
Great memories. And then should we go for fullbacks? Because I've got a centre-back partnership that I want to talk about together. So, for my right back, I struggled with this one a little bit. I was thinking maybe Ben Thatcher, but wasn't really the best football player, and all he was remembered for is breaking Pedro Mendes' leg. So for me, when I think of Barclays 11 with Man City, I think of Pablo Zabaleta, and I think it's a crime to not have him in the squad. So for me, I would have Zabaleta right back, and then I would have Wayne Bridge at left back, just because he came to us at sort of the back end of his career. He'd won with Chelsea. He had a lot of controversy surrounding him. There's a lot of news reports. And I loved that team. I loved that team with him, Carlos Tevez, when we won at Chelsea away. Like, for me, I loved Wayne Bridge at left back. So I'm going to go Wayne Bridge left back and Zabaleta right back.
I can't argue with Pablo Zabaleta, man. He was the guy. He was a proper hard bastard, you know what I'm saying? So I can't argue with that. At left back, I have to go with Kolarov. I have to go to Alexander Kolarov. I know he's a polarizing figure in the City fan base. Some people thought he was muck. Some people appreciated him. I just have great memories of him. I thought, he's this Serbian, wasn't he? He was Serbian, yeah. Mm-hmm. And I was like, this is a hard bastard, you know. He's the face of him. He's mean looking, and he had that wicked left foot and the free kicks. I remember watching him do you remember our first year in the Champions League group stages? I think we had Villarreal at home in one of the games. And I just remember watching them that game. I was watching it in Blackpool. Blackpool's a theme here. And I just liked them. Yeah, I don't know. There's no rhyme nor reason to why I'm going to pick some of these players. I just loved them at the time. I just liked them at the time. So Pablo Zabaleta and Kolarov obviously would have played together a fair bit anyway.
Of course, yeah. And I think that's what Barclays been all about. It's them memories. And I've never seen anyone strike a football like Alexander Kolarov. And I don't think I ever will see anyone strike a football like him. He hit it like
missile of a left foot.
Oh yeah, and he scored free kicks, he scored goals, he put the crosses in. Defending was a little bit, but he brought the memories, didn't
he? Have we ever had a left back who was a good defender? You know what I'm saying? Has Pep ever had a left back who was a good defender? No, they're all centre backs.
They're all centre backs or failed wingers. That's what Gary Neville always likes to say about full backs. With the centre back partnership for Man City. For me, when I think of Man City playing centre-halves, I think of Sylvain Distin and Richard Dunn. Okay. I just think we had the hardest back four in the league at that time. It was Danny Mills, Ben Thatcher, Distin and Dunn. Distin and Dunn were two very good centre-halves as well. I think they saved us in a lot of times where they would just constantly put the body on the line, win the ball back. And I remember Richard Dunn, when I first really started getting into City, really started enjoying it. I remember how many clean sheets Richard Dunn sort of kept us, how many red cards he got, and how many man of the matches. He was ridiculous. So for me, when I'm talking about Barclays sort of City 11, it's got to be Distin and Dunn for me.
Dunn's there for me. I like Distin too. Dunn's there for me. Obviously, Irish man. I've met him a few times. Really, really nice guy. Is it the most red cards or the most own goals in Premier League history?
I think his own goals. I think him and John Terry are probably right up there, isn't he?
What a guy! But yeah, I don't think he gets enough credit from Premier League fans in general for how good, even at Villa, like how good he actually was, and for Ireland on an international stage, he was class. The fans loved him. But beside Richard Dunn, I went with Lescott. I went with Jolyon Lescott.
Love it. Love it.
Just purely the main memory, how he nearly blew that first league for us on the final day. You know what I'm saying? How he nearly blew that, and it's just kind of forgotten about because of how great a day it was. But I'm still like, no, you and that dodgy Barnard of yours. I still remember that.
I love the interviews now when you're watching sort of Lescott being interviewed. Micah Richards as well, telling the stories all about sort of like as soon as he turned around, he saw Lescott heading it back and Jamie Mackie in on goal, and everybody's hearts, everything just sunk that day when that happened, and we turned it around and won that league in the style we did. But yeah, I can't disagree with that. I think Jolyon Lescott, the chant is Jolyon Lescott, he's top of the league, and I think he's got to go now. Barclays City 11. I bet you forgot about that chant, haven't you?
Yeah. Listen, to be fair, I know he's a hero as well, but you could have put Company in. He was a Barclays man.
Yeah.
He was an absolute Barclays legend. But yeah, Lescott and Dunn. Lescott and Dunn are my pairing. Absolute disaster waiting to happen.
Would it be fun? It'd be vibes. Now, for me, I've gone for 2 holding midfielders, 3 sort of attacking midfielders, and then I've got a striker up top.
Okay.
So, in the middle of the park, for me, I want these 2 players because I've got arguably the most underrated City player of all time and the hardest City player of all time, where I've got Gareth Barry, Nigel de Jong.
Nigel de Jong! That's a brilliant shout. Nigel de Jong, you know, I loved him. And I assume you're not saying Gareth Barry was the hardest City player of all time. I'm assuming you're talking about Nigel de Jong.
Oh, yeah. So Nigel James, if he said to me that I lived in Dublin, I would agree with him and I'd move over. Like, I would not argue at all.
No, he was class, Nigel de Jong. Yeah, he's a proper throwback. He used to break people up. He was an enforcer, you know. He was an absolute enforcer who, I don't know about the ball playing ability, I don't know about the footballing ability, but he was there for physical presence. And that was Barclays. that was
Barclays. And Gareth Barry was just a ridiculous footballer as well. Like, without Barry in that team in 11-12, we wouldn't have won the league. He was just the pinnacle of that. He was always there, ever present, keeping the ball moving, wrapping the ball up, becoming a 6 before like the 6th position was even really a thing. And for me, I love a left-footed player. And he had a good left foot as well.
Yeah, Gareth Barry. I think he was part of that kind of experienced players that City brought in at the time to like help us work our way up a bit. But yeah, Barry, he's up there with one of the most capped Premier League players of all time, if I'm not wrong as well. So yeah, he's a Barclays man for multiple clubs, I'd say, not just Manchester City. I went with Barry too, and then I went with Fernandinho. I think nice. He's the hardest man to ever play for Manchester City. I just love Fernandinho. I loved everything about him. How Barclays is paying part of your own transfer fee. You know what I'm saying? That takes some doing. So yeah, Fernandinho and Gareth Barry, I think would have been I think Fernandinho was the beginning of the evolution of the number 6 role in England anyway. Obviously, I know Pep had done it with Busquets over in Spain and that kind of thing. But I think Fernandinho was the first, next step in that evolution beyond your Roy Keanes and other these kind of players. So, yeah, I think I'm going to put Fernandinho in, man. He was the guy.
I love that. I also loved how I remember when I first got told that we have signed a Brazilian from Ukraine. And I looked and I was like, what? And then someone said, yeah, and he's paid his transfer fee to come over as well. And I was like, oh, he's going to be shit. And was he the opposite of shit? He was sensational. And he's gone down as probably one of the greatest City captains ever, like really leading us to league titles. And he was just a cool guy as well. He seemed like a guy that you'd go for a drink with and have a good time. Like, for me, I think Fernandinho was a great shout in there as well. Shall we section off into maybe wide players and then do sort of like middle of the park?
Yeah. So you want to do the attacking midfielders first, is it?
Yeah. So I'll say my 2 wide players and then I'll say my 10 and 9 as together. Right side, I think we're going to have the same person. Yeah, the cult hero, Sean Wright-Phillips himself, where if you think about Man City, especially in the noughties, Sean Mike Phillips is probably going to be the first player that comes to your head. The little wizard. I remember him scoring in the 04-05 derby at my end where we won. I think it was 5-1. And he absolutely, or was it 4-1? And he rifled it into the back of the net. And he made me fall in with football, that man. Especially,
Broke your heart, I'd say, when he left.
Who said on the left, sorry?
I'd say it broke your heart when he left.
Oh, yeah, he broke my heart when he left, but that made his homecoming even better when he came back, especially when we sold him. People are forgetting that £20 million we got for Sean Mike Phillips is probably saved us as a football club.
Yeah.
Because we were we could have gone down easily any of them years, but that £20 million back then was a lot of money and it really saved us. So that is probably one of the most important transfers in City history. And then on the left, another very important transfer. Now, he might not have been the best player, but for me, Robinho, when he signed, was spectacular.
I thought we were getting Ronaldinho or someone at the time.
Yes. And he didn't even know where he was coming. He thought he was signing for United. And then he turned up. He scored that free kick in his first game against Chelsea. He scored, obviously, that chip against, I think it was Arsenal. He scored some fantastic goals. He wasn't the best, but he gave us City fans something to brag about, I think. So for me, Robinho one side and Sean Wright Phillips on the other.
Yep. Okay. I have to agree with Sean Wright Phillips, absolutely. But I'm going with Craig Bellamy on the left. I loved Craig Bellamy. I absolutely loved him. I was a left winger myself, playing like schoolboy football at the time. And obviously he was a small, rapid, tricky winger. Obviously played with Celtic, played with Liverpool, but when he was at City, I was like, yeah. I can't remember the year, but you'll know it yourself that the year he tore up Manchester United in that derby. Did he score once or twice? That I can't remember off the top of my head, but yeah, Craig Bellamy, man, I absolutely loved him. I loved him as a personality as well. Do you know what he was? If I had to compare him to a footballer today, personality-wise, I'd say Jamie Vardy. Just a nutcase.
Absolute nutcase, but he was nutcase with talent as well. I remember that goal he scored in the derby. Obviously, that was when Owen scored in the last minute. But that goal when he cut in from the left flank and just rifled it top ends. But I can't believe he's a manager now. Imagine him managing you.
I wouldn't be able to take it seriously. I'd
do. He's just having a go at you for doing something, and you would be looking at him like, you did 100 things worse than what I've done in your career. How can you tell me that?
Have you heard the story going around of him hitting John Arisa with a golf club?
No, but you have to tell me.
Okay, I don't want to get any of it wrong. So people watching, if I've got some of it wrong, or you want to hear it word for word, they both told the story. I think I want to say they were having drinks at some Liverpool function or something like that, and there was a bit of a tiff broke out. They fell out or something, and I think Risa might have texted Bellamy or vice versa, saying something cheeky. So Bellamy went and got an 8-iron. He said to someone, which is the golf club you like the least out of your set? And your man said 8 irons. So he took the 8-iron, went up to Risa's room, knocked on the door, smashed him across the legs with it. And they had a punch up, and then they went out to play a game for Liverpool the next day. I think they both scored.
That is Barclays. Right, that is football that we love, definitely. And then let's finish off with the two in the middle of the park as well. So I've gone for someone playing in more like a 10 role, and then I've got a classic number 9. For me, another signing that we made, and a man who is very much sort of widely regarded as really, really good for Man City, especially when he was hitting a free kick. Ilano,
the free kick.
The free kick against Newcastle. What a player he was. Like, just signing a Brazilian. That was when Taskin took over and we really started throwing our weight around with money. And to see a Brazilian score a 30-yard free kick like that at my end as well, I was like, what a man we got here.
So you've gone with Ilano. I'm going to go with... So we have our 2 wide players. We have our 2 defensive midfielders.
Yeah, so you can either go for 2 strikers, or you can go for attacking midfielder, whichever you prefer, really.
I'm going to put Benjani up front.
Lovely.
I think he has to go up there.
But best celebration of all time.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, attacking midfield. This is the one I struggled on the most earlier on. I really want to put Stephen Ireland in. I want to squeeze Stephen Ireland in there somewhere. but I feel like
Superman himself. I think Superman himself could play there.
The guy who says he played better than Messi when he played against him in a pre-season game, Stephen Ireland. Yeah, you see
Loved
that?
it. Yeah, Stephen Ireland was just. Do you know he still does a lot of football over here? He organises a lot of like six-a-side sort of competitions. He plays with a lot. So I guess like Julian Lescott and all sort of footballers in and around sort of like the Alderley Edge sort of like area, and they all still play football together, which I find mental. I interviewed a lad Cam Mason who's like a non-league goalkeeper, and he went and played with him, and he was like, "I'm playing football with like these unbelievable football." Ravel Morrison was there.
Ravel, that's a Barclays man as well, Ravel Morrison.
But yeah, Ilano for me, and I think Stephen Ireland easily could be in there. What a player he was on his day.
Underappreciated. Stephen Ireland doesn't get the recognition. He's not the most popular in Ireland now. I think he refused to play for Ireland or something at the time or around then. So he lost a few brownie points there. But he was a really gifted footballer, a really, really technically gifted footballer who was well worth his shout. But Benjani, he's my man. Benjani, whoa, he's my man up front, man. So that's it.
Spectacular. Like, what a man Benjani was. He was nearly in mine, but I had to go for an Elka. Mainly because, like, Nicholas and Nelka, like, we got him in his, like, prime years as well, I want to say, where he was a young, fit and raring to go striker. And for me, I loved watching Elka growing up. I was like, oh, I can't believe we got him. What a player we've got here. But Benjani at Old Trafford, I feel like the moment where he's in front of like the disabled section and like the family end, isn't he? And he's there giving it the fingers, celebrating. What a man.
It was just so perfect because we beat them twice that season, it's fan season as well. So yeah, Benjani's my guy.
Excellent. What I'm going to do, I'm going to put both of the sort of Barclays 11s on Twitter or X I don't know why you call it X, but if you want to call it X, feel free to do so. But yeah, go ahead on over and let us know which Barclays City 11 are the best out of the two, because we've got some fantastic sort of suggestions there. Now, Hugh, where can we find you, mate? Well, just shout out your socials so people can head on over.
So on X, where I'm probably most active, but I haven't been recently, but I usually am around matchday anyway, at Hugh Murray 1894, Instagram Hugh Murray 13, and then just HMTV on YouTube. They'll be the places that you'll find me the most, but I will appear here and there on other people's channels too.
Oh, 100%. And if this is your first time here, please do subscribe, let me know what guests you want to see on the podcast. I'll try and reach out and see what happens here. But Hugh, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you very much for having me on, man. Great to chat to you. We'll do it again in person next time.
We certainly will. We'll have some fun. We'll get Amos down by a few beers and then let all hell break loose, definitely. And if you are as well new and you are wanting to follow me on my social medias, they're all in the description. And I shall see you in the next episode.